I actually had no idea that I would become a designer. As a matter of fact, I had this vague idea what designer does, but I didn't know that I could be one myself. I always thought that designers were born as designers, that when they first get their Lego set as a kid, it would be something like when Harry Potter first got his wand, there's this light shining, maybe some hair blowing, and then someone saying, "You're a designer, Jason." But that wasn't the case for me. What did happen was that when I was in high school, I went to a summer program at the Harvard Graduate School of Design, where it was taught by these really cool, hip, young architecture students, and they completely opened my eyes to this creative world. And they not only taught me about the essential design tools, such as how to use Photoshop and how to make architectural models, but they taught me about the design process. That every single thing that I see in this world has been designed by someone. What is the design process? How is it created? And most importantly, I was taught that the person creating all of this could in fact be me. And that's when I went, wow, this is absolutely what I want to do. I want to go out there, I want to create, I want to improve and change my life first, and hopefully the other people's lives as well. And that's when I decided to pursue architecture. And one question that I always had in mind was that, why is it that design education is only taught at a university level? Why is it that the term design is becoming such a popular term, but when you come to design education, it's very inaccessible and it's very exclusive. And rather than just sitting around and having someone else solve this answer for me, I decided to make this my personal quest and turn design education and make it accessible, and by starting my nonprofit called Design Disco. And when I tell people that I am a design educator, their frequent response is that, "Oh, so you teach art?" And no, I do not teach art, thank you, but design and art is quite different. And since I am a design teacher, let me tell you how design works. Now, let's get to the point. Design and art there are many similarities, but there are also key differences. Design always has a purpose. It's always trying to solve a problem. And I really like this quote by Charles Eames because it shows you that good design, perhaps later on, could end up as an art piece in the museum. Let's take a look at this collective by designer Caterina Camprani, which is called the Uncomfortable series, which is a series of objects that were poorly designed. We all used forks, right? But how many of you go, "Wow, thank you for making this brilliant fork"? No, right? But what if I gave you this fork when I invited you to dinner, a fork with a chain in the middle? Then suddenly perhaps you might start appreciating all the countless forks that you've used in your previous life that has fed you. What about when you're drinking wine? What if you went to a wine bar and the glass looked like this? You would be completely dumbfounded. And that's why design needs to work for us and not against us. And there's this door in my school. It's one of those very normal doors where you have to push or pull. And every single day I see students, I see teachers, I see parents, also sometimes perhaps me, struggling to open this door and get to the other side because we do not know whether we should push or pull. How crazy is that? And someone decided to even put a sign saying push or pull, but the other day, I must admit, I was in a rush and I still ended up running into this door. And now, is it my fault that I don't know how to use this door? Or is it the students' fault that they don't know how to use something so simple as a door? Absolutely not. It is, in fact, this is what happens when designers fail to take the consideration of the users. And that is why we need to see the value of good design. Because bad design makes us talk about it, but then this needs to change. Because we live in such a shallow, Instagrammable world these days where things are rapidly starting to lose its value. And once things begin to lose its value, you are seeing the students really not appreciate what is around them. And one of the things that we try to teach them is to look at the world through a constructive eye and begin to observe their surroundings. Now, let's take a look at this. This is an image that I love showing with the workshops at Design Disco with our students. And this isn't necessarily an object that comes to your mind when we think of the term design, right? But that's exactly what we're trying to talk about here, that design isn't necessarily just the next flashy iPhone 11, but it is our everyday objects. And we urge and we try to have the students to come up and with useful questions. What is it? Why is it being used? Imagine yourself using it. And can it be better? Because if you think about it, this water container, it's serving its function. It's carrying a large volume of water, and it's doing its purpose. But just because it's functional right now doesn't mean it can't be improved. Now, you begin to ask the questions. When you are imagining using this, you realize it's pretty hard to carry these things. I don't know how many of us tried to carry it, but without a handle, it's really hard. And this is perhaps a solution that none of us thought we needed, but because of this new design element of a handle, you take a good function and you turn it into a better function. And what we just did right now is roughly the design process. The first step is always to identify and define the problem, just like we did. And then we begin to research, we begin to collect data, and we begin to analyze what we have so far. And then after these first two steps, that's when we start to turn our creative brains on, and we begin to conceptualize, and we begin to brainstorm and come up with ideas. And perhaps the most fun part with the students, and me personally as well, is the prototyping, where you get your hands on and you decide to sketch, you build models, you make iterations after iterations. And during this entire process, there is constant feedback between the teachers and between the students as well. And then once you get all of this feedback, you always try to go back to the first question. Can it be improved? Can it be fine-tuned? And design thinking is teaching the students how to get out of their comfort zone and start to look at the needs of others and the community. Like, for example, this guy who is wearing his Gucci bag and hipster glasses, and you begin to ask them, how can you get out of your context and make something that is enjoyable for everyone to use, such as these AirPods, because we all have different sized ears. And let's take the design process and apply it in a completely different context for everyone here. We normally, right now, we are in this privileged Western society, but there are still way too many places around the world where water, fresh source of water, is scarce. You see these images where people have to travel miles and miles just to get some fresh water. And then now, let's do this, design process. So identify and define the problem. The problem is pretty clear here. People have to travel long journeys to get water. And then we begin to collect data. We begin to analyze what type of path are they walking on. Are they walking on asphalt? Are they walking on concrete? In this case, they're walking on earth and dirt. And then once you have all this information, you can start to come up with an idea. What could be a simple solution, a relatively easy solution that could change these people's lives? And these designers at this company called Hippo Roller, they came up with this brilliant and simple design by putting a handle long enough and already using the round shapes of these containers and making it rollable. It's such a simple idea, but it has completely changed the narrative of these people when they're trying to get water. And with our workshops, this is exactly what we're trying to teach. We're trying to teach them the importance of stepping out of our comfort zones and seeing what's next for us and showing them the design process that is needed. Because isn't that what we want the students to leave with? Isn't that what we want our future generation to have? We want them to be prepared not to always have the answers, but give them the right tools to find the answers. And the brilliant thing about design education is that when we are using these workshops and teaching them how to make it, we tell them that the process is just as important as the final product. Because sure, what is inside their mind, they suddenly see it in a physical way. Yeah, maybe it's falling apart, but at least they made it and they did something about it. And then we always try to encourage them to improve it. So hopefully you've realized that design isn't just for professional designers out there, that you are all designers yourselves. So when you are making perhaps the invoice as an accountant, apply these design thinkings, okay? So when you have graphical hierarchy, you have fonts, you have different color coding, think about that, and that can be applied to your next Excel sheet. And always keeping in mind who will receive it and how will they perceive it. Because after all, don't you want to get paid for your invoice? So just because design works doesn't mean it can't be improved. Now that you are all designers here in your own professional fields, get out there. Start to voice your opinions. Start asking the right questions. Even if it means it's a small opportunity of change, don't just sit there and wait for someone else to do it. Do something about it and try to improve it. And now, that's why you deserve design education, because it improves your life. You deserve design education because it improves the world we live in. And just remember, I didn't know that I was going to be a designer, but we all have that creativity inside of us, and we can discover this creativity. And hopefully through this talk, I hope you have discovered yours as well. Thank you very much.